Okay, so we're diving into this article you sent over. It's called 12 Powerful Steps to Take When You Feel Lost in Life. And I think we've all felt lost at some point.
Yeah.
And so let's see what this article has to offer.
Yeah, I like how it kind of jumps right in and says, this is something we all feel, and the author of the article even shares their own experiences with feeling lost.
Hmm.
So that kind of sets the tone of like, hey, we're all in this together.
Yeah, you're not alone in this.
Mhm.
And then it goes on to like these 12 steps to help you get out of that feeling. And the first one is just take a deep breath,
Right?
which like I can hear people rolling their eyes already, but there's a reason why they start there.
I think it's easy to dismiss the first step as just like, oh, come on, that's so basic.
Yeah.
But, when anxiety hits and we're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? We tend to take these short, shallow breaths.
Yeah.
And so just that act of taking a deep breath, it can really kind of disrupt that stress response and just give you a moment of pause.
It's almost like a reset button, just to kind of get back into your body, get back into your mind.
Exactly. And that calmer state can really set you up for the next step, which is all about self-reflection.
Hmm.
And not just thinking about, what you're going to have for dinner tonight, but really asking yourself some deeper questions like, what truly brings you joy? What would a fulfilling life look like for you?
Yeah, those are some big questions. The
Yeah.
ones that I think a lot of us avoid thinking about because it's so much easier to just be busy and, go with the flow.
Right. I'm going to want to rock the boat.
But yeah, sometimes you have to rock the boat a little bit
Totally.
to figure out where you're going.
Speaking of moving forward, step number 3 is take it one step at a time.
Mhm.
This one really stood out to me because I think when you feel lost,
Yeah.
there's this urge to want to change everything at once. Like, I need to overhaul my entire life.
Mhm.
But the article makes a great analogy. It's like climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
You don't teleport to the top, right?
Yeah.
You have to focus on that next step in front of you.
Yeah. And then the next step after that, and then the next step after that.
Exactly. It's those small, consistent efforts that build momentum over time.
Hmm.
So if you're not seeing these massive changes immediately, don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
I like that.
It's about the long game.
So we've taken a breath, we've reflected, we're ready to take those small steps. But how do we stay motivated along the way?
Right.
Step number 4 is seek out things that motivate and inspire you. I'm curious to hear your take on this one.
Yeah, this step is all about being mindful of the information you consume.
Mm-hmm.
I call it curating your information diet.
Okay.
Because just like what you eat affects your physical health,
Right.
what you read, watch, listen to, it affects your mental and emotional state.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
So it's about filling yourself with positive energy, things that lift you up.
I like that analogy of the information diet
Yeah.
because it's so true. We're constantly bombarded with so much information. And if you're not careful, you're just consuming all of this negative stuff and it just brings you down.
Think about it. If you're constantly, scrolling through social media and you're just seeing, negativity and drama,
Mm-hmm.
it can actually make it even harder to find your way.
Totally. So breathe, reflect, small steps, positive input, all great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes inspiration isn't enough,
Right.
right? Sometimes you need support, and that's where step 5 comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
This one can be tough for a lot of people, myself included, but I think it's so important.
It's incredibly hard to reach out when you're struggling, right? We tend to isolate ourselves and think we have to figure it all out on our own.
Yeah.
But, having a support system, whether it's friends, family, therapists, that can be invaluable.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes just having someone to listen without judgment can make a world of difference.
Totally agree. And I will admit, I am absolutely terrible at asking for help.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to figure everything out on my own. But there was a time when I was feeling really lost in my career. And I kept everything bottled up. I was convinced I had to solve it all myself. And it wasn't until I finally opened up to a friend and just started talking about it that I realized how much I needed that support.
And how did that change things for you?
I think just voicing those fears and doubts out loud, it helped me see things more clearly.
Mm-hmm.
My friend offered some helpful advice, but even more importantly, she just listened.
Yeah.
And that feeling of being heard and understood was so validating.
Sometimes that's all it takes, right?
Yeah.
Just to feel seen and heard.
Yeah, and like you're not alone in this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that connection can be incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm. So step number 6 is learn something new. I'm actually really excited about this one
Me too.
because I think it ties in beautifully with some of the earlier steps.
Like, once you've taken that time to reflect and figure out what truly matters to you, Learning something new can help you uncover passions and talents you might not even know you have.
Absolutely. It's like opening up a whole new world of possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes beyond just acquiring knowledge. There's this concept called neuroplasticity,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically the brain's ability to change and adapt throughout life.
Mm-hmm.
And learning new things, it actually rewires your brain for growth.
Wow.
It's like building new pathways, making you more adaptable and resilient, which are essential qualities
Mm.
when you're trying to navigate feeling lost.
Yeah, that's so cool. So it's not just about like stuffing our brains with more information. It's about actually changing the way our brains work.
It really is.
So not only feeling inspired to learn something new now.
Yeah, me too. And while you're exploring those new avenues, keep in mind step number 7, which is remind yourself that feeling lost is temporary. Ugh, this is such an important one because it's so easy to get caught up in that feeling and think it's never going to end.
Right. Like I'm always going to feel this way.
Exactly.
But it's essential to remember that this is just a phase, not a permanent state.
Yeah, it's like the weather. You know, even the darkest storm clouds eventually give way to sunshine.
Yeah, I love that analogy.
It might feel like it's going to rain forever, but eventually the sun will come out.
It will.
Speaking of weathering those storms, step number 8 is give yourself love and patience. This one really resonates with me because I think we're often our own worst critics.
Absolutely. Especially when you're already feeling down, right? You're like,
Yeah.
ugh, why can't I figure this out? But this step reminds us to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a friend who is going through a rough patch.
Yeah, totally. It's not about letting ourselves off the hook or anything.
Right.
It's just about acknowledging that we're human.
We all make mistakes.
We make mistakes, and we deserve compassion even when we mess up.
Absolutely.
You know, one thing that really stood out to me in this article was step number 9. Remember that feeling lost is a normal part of life.
It is.
And I think we often forget that.
We do.
We feel like we're the only ones struggling.
Like we're the only ones who don't have it all figured out.
Exactly.
Right.
But the reality is that everyone feels lost at some point. It's a universal experience.
It really is. And, you know, it kind of reminds me of that scene in the movie Lost in Translation,
Oh, yeah.
where Bill Murray's character, Bob, is feeling so out of sync with his life. And he connects with Scarlett Johansson's character, Charlotte, who's also feeling lost and adrift in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And it's a great illustration of how feeling lost can actually connect us with others who understand what we're going through.
It's like a shared experience that brings people together.
Absolutely.
It's funny how sometimes feeling lost can lead to these deeper connections.
Yeah, for sure. So moving on to step number 10, this one seemed a bit counterintuitive at first. Engage in acts of kindness.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
How does doing something kind for someone else help you when you're feeling lost?
Well, it might seem surprising, but there's actually a growing body of research showing that altruism, which is acting with kindness and compassion towards others, it actually boosts our own sense of well-being and purpose.
So being kind is not just good for the people we're being kind to.
Right.
It's good for us, too.
It really is. Helping others can often shift our perspective and help us feel more connected to something bigger than ourselves.
That's a really interesting concept, that we
Yeah.
can actually like help ourselves by helping others.
It's a win-win.
That's great. Now, step 11, trusting yourself. This can be a really tough one, especially when you're feeling unsure about everything. But the article really emphasizes the importance of believing in yourself.
It is challenging, especially when you're feeling lost. But think back to a time when you achieved something you were really proud of. What strength or skills did you draw on to make that happen?
Yeah.
Remembering those past successes, big or small, it can really help rebuild that trust in yourself.
It's like reminding ourselves that we've been through tough times before.
Yeah.
And we've come out the other side.
And we can do it again.
Exactly. And finally, we reach step 12, embrace change and uncertainties.
Yes.
This one can be scary, I think, for a lot of us because we crave that certainty and that predictability.
Right. We want to know what's coming next.
But the article makes a really good point that change is inevitable.
It is. And resistance only creates suffering.
Yeah.
So embracing change, especially when you're feeling lost, it opens you up to new possibilities and opportunities for growth.
It's like stepping outside of your comfort zone,
Yes.
which can be terrifying, but it's often where the magic happens.
It's where we discover our true potential.
So this has been a really insightful look at these first 12 steps.
Yeah, it's amazing how much wisdom is packed into these seemingly simple steps.
Yeah, and I'm already feeling a little bit more equipped to deal with those moments when I'm feeling lost.
Me too.
But before we wrap up this first part, I want to leave you with a question to consider.
Okay.
Which of these 12 steps resonates with you the most? We'll dive deeper into this in part 2.
Sounds good.
As we were exploring those 12 steps, I was struck by how they're all interconnected. You know,
Yeah.
it's not just a checklist that you tick off one by one.
Right.
They really build on each other.
They do. Each step kind of reinforces the others, creating this positive feedback loop that can help you move forward. Think about it, that initial deep breath,
Yeah.
that can create the space for that meaningful self-reflection.
Right.
And then that self-reflection can lead to a better understanding of what truly motivates and inspires you.
And then once you have a better grasp on those things that light you up,
Yeah.
you can begin to take those small steps toward making positive changes. But even those small steps can feel really daunting if you're trying to do it all alone.
Absolutely.
And that's where the support system comes in, just like the article was saying.
Exactly. Having people you trust,
Mm-hmm.
friends, family, a therapist, anyone who can offer that non-judgmental support that can make it so much easier to try new things, to learn new things,
Yeah,
to face those changes that inevitably come with finding your way.
absolutely. And remembering that feeling lost is temporary,
Right.
a normal part of life.
Right.
That can provide an extra boost of resilience to help you weather those tough moments.
Yeah, it's like each step creates this ripple effect, making the other steps a bit easier to manage.
That's a great way to think about it. It's not about being perfect or having all the answers right away.
No.
It's about that continuous learning, adapting, and moving forward,
Exactly.
even if it's just one small step at a time.
Yeah, one step at a time.
So I love that image of a ripple effect.
Yeah.
It's so dynamic, and it reminds us that it's a process, not an overnight transformation.
Absolutely.
While we were going through those steps, I kept thinking back to that question we posed at the end of part 1.
Mm-hmm.
Which step resonated the most with you personally?
Yeah, it's a question worth considering.
Yeah.
What stood out to you as particularly relevant or helpful?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
They all offer something valuable,
They do.
but for me, I think it's the combination of give yourself time to reflect and learn something new that really struck a chord.
I can see the connection there because self-reflection, it can help you identify those areas where you might be feeling stagnant or unfulfilled.
Yeah.
And then learning something new, that can provide the spark you need
Yeah.
to rekindle your passions or open up those new possibilities.
That's exactly it. Like once you've invested the time to figure out what truly matters to you, you can proactively seek out opportunities to learn and grow in those areas.
Yeah, you're not just passively waiting for something to happen. You're taking control.
Becoming the architect of your own life.
Yes, I love that.
Rather than just letting things happen to you.
It's so empowering, right?
It is. It's that realization that even in the midst of uncertainty,
Yeah.
we have the power to shape our own path.
Absolutely.
Feeling lost doesn't have to be a passive experience.
Right?
It can be the catalyst that propels us toward a more fulfilling life.
Totally. It's like that saying, sometimes you have to get lost to find yourself.
Oh, I love that.
Feeling lost can be that wake-up call that prompts us to reevaluate our lives,
Yeah.
identify what's not working.
And make those conscious choices to create something better.
Exactly.
So it's about seeing that feeling lost isn't a sign of weakness or failure.
Right.
It's an invitation to pause, reflect, and adjust course.
It's an opportunity for growth and transformation.
It's about rewriting our stories.
Beautifully said. And that brings us to a crucial point.
Okay.
What does it actually look like to rewrite our stories when we're feeling lost?
Yeah, that's a great question.
How do we transition from feeling stuck and directionless to feeling empowered and purposeful?
The article provided a framework, with those 12 steps. But how do we actually apply those steps to our daily lives?
Yeah.
How do we bridge that gap between understanding the concepts
Right.
and actually putting them into action?
It starts with being honest with ourselves about the specific areas of our lives where we're feeling lost.
Okay.
Is it our career, our relationships, our sense of purpose? Pinpointing those areas allows us to use those 12 steps in a targeted way.
So if someone's feeling lost in their career,
Yeah.
they could use those self-reflection steps to really dig deep and think about their
Absolutely.
values, their skills, their passion.
Exactly. And then they might seek out new learning opportunities,
Mm.
mentorship programs, resources that could provide the guidance and support they need
Okay.
to gain more clarity and direction.
And if someone's feeling lost in their relationships, maybe they reach out for help from a therapist
Yeah.
or relationship
Yeah.
counselor.
Absolutely.
Someone who can guide them in developing healthier communication skills, setting boundaries.
It's about finding the right resources and support systems that match your individual needs and circumstances.
Yeah, and remember, even those small acts of kindness
Mm-hmm.
can have a ripple effect.
They do.
Volunteering, being a good listener for a friend,
Yeah.
all of those things can contribute to a greater sense of well-being and purpose.
Absolutely.
It all comes back to those small, consistent actions, doesn't it?
It does.
Even when we don't feel like it,
Mm-hmm.
taking those steps, it can lead to those significant transformations over time.
It's all about trusting the process,
Yeah.
believing in our capacity for growth and change.
Reminding ourselves that feeling lost is a normal part of life.
Yes.
It's not a sign of weakness.
Mm-hmm.
It's simply a signal to
Yeah.
pause, reflect, and course correct,
It's an opportunity to rewrite our narrative.
and create a life that feels more authentic and fulfilling.
Beautifully said. Speaking of rewriting our narratives, there's one more aspect I'd like to touch on before we conclude part 2.
Okay.
It's this concept of internal narratives.
Okay.
The stories we tell ourselves about who we are, what we're capable of,
Mhm.
and what the future holds.
So you're saying that if we're constantly feeding ourselves these negative messages like, I'm not good enough or I'll never find my way,
Yeah.
those messages can actually become self-fulfilling prophecies.
Exactly. Our thoughts and beliefs have a powerful impact on our actions
Mhm.
and ultimately the outcomes that we experience.
So if we want to rewrite our stories and create a more empowering and fulfilling future,
Yeah.
we need to start by examining those internal narratives.
Exactly. Becoming aware of those negative self-talk patterns
Mhm.
and making a conscious choice to replace them with more positive and affirming ones.
So it's about recognizing that we have the power to choose the stories we tell ourselves.
Yes. Instead of saying, I'm lost, you might say, I'm on a journey of self-discovery.
Oh, I like that.
It's a subtle shift,
Yeah.
but it can have a profound impact on your mindset and your outlook.
It's like reframing the experience, isn't it?
Yes.
Shifting from that sense of being stuck to a sense of exploration and possibility.
Absolutely. And instead of saying, I'll never find my way, you might say, I'm open to exploring new possibilities
Mhm.
and trusting that the path will unfold.
That's so powerful. It's like giving yourself permission to embrace the unknown
Yeah.
and trust that you have the inner strength and resilience to navigate those challenges.
It's about moving from a place of fear and scarcity to a place of abundance and possibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's about believing in yourself,
Yeah.
trusting that you have the power to create a life that feels truly aligned with your heart and soul.
Wow. It's amazing how these small shifts in language
Mm-hmm.
can lead to such significant shifts in perspective.
They really can.
This has been an incredible exploration so far.
It has.
We've talked about the power of our thoughts and beliefs and how we can actively shape our reality by rewriting those internal narratives.
It's been a pleasure exploring these concepts with you.
And before we wrap up part 2, I just want to reiterate,
Yeah,
feeling lost is a normal part of being human.
it is.
It's not a sign of weakness or failure.
It's an opportunity
It's an opportunity to pause, reflect, and course correct.
to rewrite our stories and create a life that feels more authentically aligned with who we truly are.
And the most empowering thing is that we have the choice,
Mm-hmm.
the agency to design our own path
Yeah.
and create a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling to us.
And sometimes, that feeling of being lost, that's the very thing that propels us toward that richer, more authentic life.
Oh, I love that thought.
Yeah.
We'll pause here for now and pick back up in part 3 where we'll explore some specific tools and techniques for actually putting these ideas into practice.
Sounds great.
How to rewrite those internal narratives and navigate those moments when we feel lost. We've been talking about rewriting those internal narratives, those stories we tell ourselves,
Yeah.
and how that can help us when we feel lost. But it can feel kind of abstract.
Yeah.
So where do we actually begin to change those narratives?
That's a great question. It's understandable to feel a bit overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But the good news is there are some practical tools and techniques that we can use to start shifting those negative self-talk patterns.
Okay.
And one technique I find particularly helpful is called thought stopping.
Thought stopping. Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds kind of intense.
it sounds more intense than it is.
Yeah, okay.
Basically, the next time you find yourself dwelling on that negative thought, literally say stop.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Just like that?
It might seem too simple,
Yeah.
but it can be surprisingly effective.
Okay.
It's like interrupting a broken record.
Mm-hmm.
You're breaking the cycle of that negative thought pattern.
That's interesting. So it's like you're taking control rather than letting those negative thoughts just run wild.
Exactly. And once you've interrupted that negative thought, you can consciously choose to replace it with something more positive.
Okay, so for example, if I catch myself thinking, I'm so lost I'll never figure things out,
Yeah.
I could stop that thought and say, I'm on a journey and I'm trusting the process.
That's a great example. And the more you practice this,
Mm-hmm.
the easier it becomes to catch those negative thoughts before they spiral.
Okay.
You're starting to create a more positive internal dialogue.
I like that. It's like we can train our brains to think more positively, more constructively.
Absolutely.
What about affirmations? I've heard about those, but honestly, they've always seemed a bit cheesy to me.
Yeah.
Did they actually work?
They can be powerful tools if you use them consistently and with intention.
Okay.
It's not just about repeating any random positive phrase.
All right.
It's about choosing affirmations that resonate with you and your specific situation.
Okay, so how do we choose affirmations that are actually meaningful for us?
Well, think about those areas in your life where you're feeling lost or lacking confidence. What are some positive statements that you can create to directly address those feelings?
So if I'm feeling lost in my career,
Yeah.
I might use an affirmation like, I am talented and capable, and I am attracting fulfilling work into my life.
Exactly. And you can write them down, say them out loud, or even record them.
Okay.
And listen to them throughout the day.
So it's about like consistently reinforcing those positive messages.
Exactly.
Okay, I can definitely give that a try.
Yeah.
So we've got thought stopping, we've got affirmations. What are some other techniques we can use to kind of rewrite those internal narratives?
Visualization is another powerful technique.
Okay, it's like creating a vision board.
Yes, or even just taking a few minutes each day to close your eyes and vividly imagine yourself living the life that you desire.
Oh,
So if you're feeling lost in your relationships, you might visualize yourself surrounded by loving and supportive friends and family.
okay, and like really feeling it.
Exactly. And the key is to engage all of your senses.
Okay.
What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you smell? Even what do you taste?
Wow.
The more vividly you can imagine it,
Yeah.
the more real it will feel, and the more you'll start to believe it's possible.
It's like we're creating a blueprint for our future
Yeah.
with our imagination.
Exactly. And the more we focus on what we want, the more we attract those experiences into our lives.
This has been such an insightful conversation.
It has.
We've learned so much about how our thoughts and beliefs shape our reality and how we can actively take control by rewriting those internal narratives.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure exploring these concepts with you.
It has.
And I think it's important to remember that feeling lost is a normal part of the human experience.
Yeah.
It's not a sign of weakness. It's simply an invitation to pause, reflect, and adjust course.
It's a chance to rewrite those stories and create a life that feels more authentic and aligned with our true selves.
Absolutely.
And I think the most empowering takeaway from all of this is that we have the power to choose our direction,
Yeah.
to design a path that feels meaningful and fulfilling to us.
And sometimes that feeling of being lost, that's the catalyst that propels us toward that richer, more authentic life.
I love that.
It's that push we need to step outside our comfort zone and discover who we truly are.
So to anyone out there feeling a bit lost right now,
Yeah.
you're not alone.
You've got this.
You have the strength to navigate this. Just take a deep breath, be kind to yourself, and trust that you will find your way.
Beautifully said. And remember, the journey is just as important as the destination. Embrace the adventure, explore new possibilities, and never stop believing in yourself.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and empowering.
Yes, thank you for listening.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep shining your light.